Right now, as of this Tuesday evening, Arsenal Football Club are sitting in one of the most significant positions they have occupied in years. They are 90 minutes away from a Champions League semi-final, not a group stage exit, not a round of 16 disappointment, a semi-final. And the reality for this club is that the first leg result, a 1-0 victory away at Sporting CP in Lisbon, has given them exactly the platform they needed. But here is what makes this moment so complicated and so fascinating to analyse. That lead, that precious one-goal advantage, is sitting on top of a team that has been visibly wobbling. And when you look at everything that has happened in the last few weeks at Arsenal, the question is not simply whether they will qualify. The question is what kind of Arsenal team shows up tomorrow night at the Emirates Stadium. Think about what Mikel Arteta is managing right now. His squad has lost the English Football League Cup final. They were knocked out of the Football Association Cup, and on Saturday they lost at home in the Premier League to Bournemouth. A mid-table Bournemouth side walked into the Emirates and took 3 points. That is the reality of where Arsenal are right now in domestic football. And yet, the Champions League remains untouched. 11 games in the competition this season, unbeaten, 27 goals scored. That is the contradiction that Arteta is living with, and that is the contradiction that every Arsenal supporter is trying to make sense of as Wednesday night approaches. Let me be very clear about what is genuinely at stake here, because it goes far beyond simply advancing in a football competition. If Arsenal fail to progress against Sporting CP, the psychological damage to this squad could be devastating. They have already lost a domestic cup final. They are losing ground in the Premier League title race, with Manchester City still firmly in contention. A Champions League exit at the quarter-final stage to a Portuguese side that many expected them to handle comfortably would raise serious questions about this team's ability to perform when it matters most. Arteta himself has acknowledged the pressure. He knows the narrative being built around his team. There are voices on social media, as he has referenced, claiming Arsenal are beginning to bottle the big moments. And while he says his motivation is not to silence those critics, the evidence suggests that results are beginning to speak in a way that cannot easily be dismissed. The other side of this coin is enormous. A semi-final appearance would be the biggest moment in Arsenal's recent European history. It would represent consecutive semi-final appearances in the Champions League for the first time ever in the club's history. That is not a small thing. That is a landmark achievement for a club that has spent years rebuilding its status as a European force. And on Sunday, Arsenal face Manchester City in a Premier League clash that could define the entire title race. If Arsenal beat Sporting on Wednesday and then face City with that momentum, the psychological shift could be transformative. If they stumble against Sporting, they go into that City game wounded, fragile and carrying the weight of yet another big occasion failure. The stakes in every direction could not be higher. And before we go deeper into this analysis, if you are watching this and you want serious, detailed, no-nonsense coverage of everything happening at Arsenal, please subscribe to Linda Arsenal Updates right now. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, because stories like this one deserve real analysis, not just headlines. Now let us continue. Let us start with the injury situation, because it is absolutely central to everything that happens tomorrow night. Declan Rice is injured. Bukayo Saka is injured. Bukayo Saka is injured. Martin Odegaard is injured. Ricardo Calafiori is injured. 5 players, all of whom would be considered starters in this Arsenal team under normal circumstances, missed the open section of training today. 5 starters gone, unavailable for the most important match of Arsenal's season. Arteta has been direct about this. He has said that Arsenal have probably been missing 4 or 5 starters for weeks now, and that this has had an impact. He added clearly that the club need them back. That is a manager telling you in plain language that his squad is stretched and that the absences have cost them in recent weeks. Now, there is a sliver of good news on the injury front. Arteta suggested that either Saka or Timber could be fit for Wednesday, and between the two of them, Timber is considered the more likely to be available. So there is a possibility that Arteta gets one of those key players back for the second leg, which would be a significant boost. However, Rice is unlikely to feature. With the Manchester City Premier League clash coming on Sunday, the decision appears to be that Rice will be protected and rested for that game rather than risk in the Champions League tie. That is a telling decision. It tells you that Arteta is managing 2 major competitions simultaneously and cannot afford to break Rice further by pushing him through 90 minutes on Wednesday. The predicted starting lineup, based on the available information, is Raya in goal, White, Gabriel, Saliba and Timber across the back four. In midfield, Zubimendi, Norgard and Eze. And in attack, Madueke, Martinelli and Gyökeres. That is a lineup that is missing several of its most influential performers. No Odegaard pulling the strings in midfield. No Saka on the right wing in his natural threatening form, and yet it is still a lineup containing players of genuine quality who are capable of executing a 1-0 lead over 90 minutes. Let us talk about Victor Gyökeres, because his story going into this game is one of the most intriguing subplots of the entire tie. Gyökeres, of course, is playing against his former club. Sporting CP is where he built his reputation in European football before Arsenal brought him to North London. Last week, in the first leg at Lisbon, he had a quiet night. Returning to a ground where he was beloved, facing a team that knew his game inside out, the Swede was unable to impose himself in the way Arsenal would have wanted. But here is the thing. The evidence about Gyökeres' form more broadly is very positive. He has scored 6 goals in his last 5 matches across club and international football. 6 goals in 5 games. That is the form of a striker who is locked in, confident and dangerous. He converted Arsenal's penalty against Bournemouth at the weekend. He also had another goal disallowed for offside in that same match. The goals are coming, the contributions are there. Playing against Sporting at the Emirates, away from the emotion of returning to his old home ground with fans behind him and the freedom of familiar surroundings, Gyökeres has every reason to step up and make this game his own. Gabriel Martinelli is also a player to watch closely in this second leg. He has been Arsenal's primary threat in the Champions League this season. He is tied for 8th in the scoring charts in the competition with 6 goals. But more than the goals, his energy, his directness and his ability to create moments of danger out of nothing make him a constant problem for opposition defences. In the first leg in Lisbon, it was Martinelli driving forward and delivering a precise cross that led to Kai Havertz scoring the winning goal late on. That goal, that last-gasp intervention, is the reason Arsenal are going into Wednesday with the advantage they have. Eberechi Eze has also spoken ahead of the game, and his words are worth paying close attention to. He described this Arsenal squad as full of leaders, not just in the formal leadership group, but throughout the entire dressing room. He said every player has a voice, every player can speak and say what they think, and he said there is loads of confidence and loads of belief in the group. That is significant because there are real questions being asked about the mentality of this squad right now. After the League Cup final defeat to Manchester City, after the Football Association Cup exit to Southampton, after the Bournemouth result on Saturday, the outside world is beginning to write a particular story about Arsenal. The story that this team cannot handle pressure, the story that they shrink in important moments. Eze is pushing back against that narrative. He is saying from inside the dressing room that the belief is still there, the focus is on the opportunity, and they intend to take it with both hands. That is a player who sounds composed rather than desperate, and that matters. Arteta himself, as always, carries himself with a certain clarity in his press conference words. He was asked about the social media criticism, the voices questioning whether Arsenal can handle these moments. His response was essentially to dismiss those voices entirely. He said the motivation is to give the people who deserve it what they are looking for, the fans, the ones who have been loyal and invested, not the critics online, not the doubters. The motivation is for the supporters. He also offered a very interesting piece of perspective about the nature of competing at this level. He said the higher you are, the bumpier it gets. He spoke about the line being thinner between being the best and being the worst at the top of the game, and he said his players need to embrace that rather than be overwhelmed by it. That is a manager who is trying to reframe the pressure, not as a threat, but as evidence of how far this club has come. Rui Borges and his team are not in London simply to make up the numbers. They are a side that finished the first leg having created genuine chances. The issue for them was David Raya. The Arsenal goalkeeper was outstanding in Lisbon, denying several Sporting attempts and keeping the scoreline at 1-0. If not for Raya's performance, this tie could look very different heading into the second leg. Sporting arrive in North London, sitting second in the Primera Liga. They warmed up for this trip with a 1-0 victory away at Estrela at the weekend, so they are not coming in on the back of a loss. They are organised, they are motivated, and they genuinely believe they can turn this tie around. Their predicted lineup is Rui Silva in goal, Fresneda, Diomande, Goncalo Inacio, and Araujo in defence, Schulmand and Morita in central midfield, with Catamo, Francisco Trincao and Pedro Goncalves supporting striker Luis Suarez. However, Sporting will be without 3 players. Nuno Santos, Luis Guilherme and Fotis Ioannidis are all unavailable for the second leg. Those are notable absences for Rui Borges, and they reduce the variety of attacking options he can call upon. The historical record between these clubs in European competition is also worth examining closely. Arsenal are unbeaten in 6 matches against Sporting across all competitions, winning 3 and drawing 3. Their biggest result came just last season when Arsenal beat Sporting 5-1 in Portugal during the Champions League group stage. That was a statement of Arsenal's quality at their best. The only blemish in this head-to-head record came in the 2022-2023 Europa League round of 16. Sporting beat Arsenal on penalties after a 3-all aggregate draw, 2-2 at the Emirates, 1-1 in Lisbon. Goncalo Inácio, who is in Sporting's predicted lineup for Wednesday, scored in that first leg. And Pedro Goncalves, also expected to start on Wednesday, scored in the second leg. So 2 of Sporting's key players for this match have scored against Arsenal in a previous European knockout tie. That is a detail that Arteta's defensive unit will need to be aware of. There is also a broader historical picture that weighs heavily on Sporting's hopes. English clubs have won the last 10 two-legged Champions League ties against Portuguese opposition, 10 consecutive ties. That is a remarkable and very specific record, and it underlines just how difficult this task is for Rui Borges. Furthermore, looking at the quarter-final stage specifically, this is the 10th time an English club and a Portuguese club have met in a European Cup quarter-final. English clubs have won all 9 of the previous encounters, 9 from 9 at the quarter-final stage. That is the mountain Sporting are being asked to climb. Arsenal have scored 27 goals in 11 Champions League games this season. That works out to an average of 2.46 goals per game. They kept clean sheets in 7 of those 11 matches. That is an extraordinary set of numbers. It shows a team that has been ruthlessly efficient in European competition, even while their domestic form has fluctuated. Sporting have also been productive going forward in the Champions League, scoring 22 goals in 11 games, averaging exactly 2 goals per game. But the comparison in defensive record is striking. Arsenal have conceded only 5 goals in the competition. Sporting have conceded 15. That is a 10-goal difference, and it tells you that Sporting are a team that can score but struggle to keep things tight at the back. Both teams scoring in this second leg is a genuine possibility based on those numbers. 3 of the last 4 head-to-head matches between these sides ended with both teams finding the net. Sporting have shown they can score, and their performance in the first leg demonstrated they create chances. If they replicate that level against Arsenal on Wednesday, the Arsenal defence will be tested, but the fundamental reality for Arsenal is this: they have the lead, they have the home advantage. They are playing in front of their own supporters at the Emirates Stadium, where the record shows they have lost only once across their last 23 European games, 1 loss in 23 European home games. That is a fortress-level record, and it is the foundation that Arsenal are building this second leg upon. They have also advanced from 17 of their last 18 European two-legged ties when winning the first leg away from home, 17 from 18. The patterns of history are overwhelmingly in Arsenal's favour. What makes this Champions League run so significant for Arsenal goes beyond just the results. This club has not appeared in consecutive Champions League semi-finals in its entire history. If they get through on Wednesday night, they make that history. If they get through on Wednesday night, they make that history. They become the Arsenal team that reached back-to-back semi-finals in the biggest club competition in the world. That is a statement not just about one season, but about the trajectory of this club under Arteta's management. And the timing matters because Sunday's Premier League match against Manchester City is looming large. A Champions League semi-final qualification secured on Wednesday night in front of the Emirates crowd would give this Arsenal squad exactly the kind of emotional and psychological fuel they need walking into that City match. The connection between the 2 results is not subtle. Win on Wednesday and Arsenal go to City with belief restored. Falter on Wednesday and the weight of yet another failure follows them into the biggest domestic game of the season. Arteta is fully aware of this. He referenced the City match when speaking about Rice's availability, essentially confirming that he is managing Wednesday and Sunday as connected decisions. That is the thinking of a manager who sees the whole board, not just the next move. The situation entering Wednesday night is clear. Arsenal hold a 1-0 lead. They are at home. Their Champions League record this season is outstanding. The historical data overwhelmingly favours them. But either squad, even with significant injuries, contains enough quality to manage a 1-goal advantage over 90 minutes. The concern is not tactical. The concern is psychological. Because this Arsenal squad has shown in recent weeks that the pressure of competing on multiple fronts is beginning to affect them. The domestic results are not good enough. Key players are missing, the social media noise is building, but the Champions League has been a sanctuary for this team all season. 11 games, unbeaten. And the dressing room voices from Eze to Arteta himself are consistent in projecting belief and focus rather than fear. The evidence suggests that Arsenal are in control of this tie. The evidence also suggests that Sporting are dangerous enough to make it uncomfortable. And the evidence above everything else suggests that Wednesday night at the Emirates will be exactly the kind of high-stakes, high-emotion European night that this club has been building toward. For Arsenal fans watching this is your moment, this is the opportunity the squad is talking about, and they say they intend to take it with both hands. That is your analysis for today from Linda Arsenal Updates. Subscribe if you are not already part of this community, because we cover Arsenal this way, in depth, with honesty and with the detail that the club deserves. See you on the other side of Wednesday night.